All right, everybody, all three of y'all. This is a special called meeting. I will call us to order. I do find that we have a quorum. Hopefully, we may have some other members of council join us, but I will ask Ms. Sullivan if you would lead us in an invocation, and I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll go from there.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, this opportunity. Watch over the city, help the mayor and council make the best decision for the town. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. Please be seated. I will dispense with opening remarks tonight, and we have no public participation or hearing that's needed or has been requested. The only item on the consent agenda tonight is approval of the agenda for this special meeting. At this time, I'd entertain any motions concerning the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion we accept the consent agenda as printed.
We have motions. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. No. Noes, and so the agenda is approved unanimously. That takes us to new business. Because this matter involves the negotiation and execution of a lease, there should have been an executive session. I believe there was an executive session on the agenda that was published. Leslie, because the one I approved had it on there. But since we don't have an executive session that's listed on the agenda, whatever we discuss will be in open session. We are indeed. I may have to defer some matters, but the ordinance that is before you is Ordinance 9-24-1, which is an ordinance to approve the negotiation, execution, and delivery by the city of a lease between the city and Gary and Zach Durkee, doing business as Arnold's of Lawrence as a lessee with respect to square footage found in the building located at 104 East Main Street, which is the Capitol Theater. That is the substance of the proposed ordinance. As council is aware, state law prescribes that there are certain items that are required to be done through council, and the sale of city real estate or lease of city real estate is one of those things. And so that matter is before you for first reading tonight, and at this time I would open the floor to any motions.
I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance 0924-01 for discussion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
All right. Okay, so you just stated that there's some matters that will be referred on the next meeting, concerning this ordinance?
Well, so the ordinance itself doesn't contain particulars as to the details of the lease. That lease is still being negotiated, so, because I wouldn't want to be in a position where we negotiate against ourselves, and I don't want to make representations about the other side's positions about certain matters. While that negotiation is still ongoing, so there just may be certain things that I'm not at liberty to discuss at this time.
Okay, so is it safe to say by the, what's this? This is the September, it is September, but by our regular scheduled September meeting, will those negotiations be completed?
I don't know.
Okay.
Ideally,
Ideally, okay. So is it safe to say that we could table this until we get all the information? So we can,
so the only thing that you would be voting on in this ordinance is not the approval of a lease. It would be authorizing me to negotiate and execute a lease on behalf of the city.
without all the information?
That has never been the practice in the city to include all of that information in an ordinance, because there can only be one person negotiating on behalf of the city and only one signature line on the lease on behalf of the city. It requires, under state law, there's an ordinance that's required to authorize me to make that happen.
Okay, cause I love the fact that, we potentially getting a, burger fry joint on the square. The courthouse is beautiful, so it's gonna be something else added to people walking around eating and enjoying themselves. It's a great thing. However, we recently went through, something that didn't go as we thought. So I would say, it don't mean that the rest of the council members, I would say it'd be best to have all the information, before voting on it. That's just me, but that's all I say.
This being an ordinance, it comes up,
Correct.
so we still have one more reading of this ordinance.
Yes.
Correct.
to approve. So,
I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
no.
to your point, the reason why we're having a special called meeting on Monday of the week prior to our regular meeting is because, under state law, you have to have a week between readings.
sure.
And I wanted to give enough time so that at our regular meeting, assuming everything was in order, we could have second reading on it and I could execute a lease as quickly as possible. The goal of the potential lessee, would be to begin work as quickly as possible, to be open as quickly as possible. And because the city's renovations to that building are set to begin now.
They're working on it.
Correct. We don't want to miss an opportunity to have some savings of cost by doing
What are we doing?
two separate. The stage that was built in the 1920s doesn't meet modern code standards. And so reinforcing and supporting the stage is one of the main things we're doing, installing lighting, sound, that kind of thing, to make the theater portion fit for use as a theater.
But they're not leasing that, it looks like.
They are not leasing that part. However, when the renovations that Presbyterian College did to make the space suitable for esports were done, they didn't need to have connectivity between the kitchen and that front room. nor was there a entrance that would be suitable for a restaurant included, so that,
So this negotiation of the lease,
Mhm.
you're gonna negotiate the lease, or you're gonna bring the terms of the lease to us for the second reading for approval? So we're gonna know this is just authorizing you, it does say execute,
correct,
but you won't be able to do that until after second reading,
correct,
which means we are gonna expect, I know I am, I can't speak for the rest of the council. I'm
Correct.
gonna expect to see the terms of the lease
correct,
before I vote affirmative if it's good.
correct.
Which of course I'm hoping, really, really hoping. So basically what we're sitting here today is doing is getting the ball rolling, but we have the ability on second reading to stop that ball from rolling if we wanted to.
That is
If we
correct.
wanted to.
That is correct.
Nothing will be executed on this first reading,
Correct, because I couldn't.
because you could. Okay, that's what I need to know.
I just didn't want there to be any undue delay.
Yeah, I'm good with starting. This doesn't feel, I understand why you're calling the special meeting, I understand why you want to get the ball rolling, but we're not doing anything that's not reversible today.
Correct, correct. Hypothetically, at the second meeting, you said, I don't like this, we're not approving it.
Yeah, if the terms are bad, if it's a bad lease, then maybe the council feels that way, then we can shoot it down on second reading, and y'all's done, and we'll move on.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
There's, I will say that there are, so I reached out to our attorney, Lawrence Flynn. He is the one that has sort of prepared the initial draft of the lease. That was sent over. Those discussions are ongoing. So we are not at the point where I would feel comfortable saying to city council, this, and this. Because I don't want to jeopardize the city's interest in that, where there may be something where something could work in our favor that,
Now,
And what we're doing is not unusual. I mean, county council approves a budget without the first number in front of them every year
correct,
on first reading.
correct,
Just to get the ball rolling.
correct.
Yeah, and that's good governance to get
Did-
it rolling.
did you say they were already working on the building?
So our contractors that we have retained, we got a grant through the Department of Commerce. And so the grant through the Department of Commerce is paying for certain repairs to the building. So our contractors, they're doing work for us, not the potential lessee. But if there are things, while you got a crew there, rather than waiting to get a contractor to come back and they're not being able to show up for another couple months, if you have some people that are there in the building, they're able to do work while they're there.
So that was it wasn't a bidded out job for the contractors?
It was.
It was, okay. Gotcha. I don't have any more questions. I'm sorry.
Mayor, can you tell us a little bit about ours, or do you know much about it?
Sure. So the thing that I have heard from the community, when they've given input about what they want to see at this place, is a cafe, not unlike what used to be there when Ron and Debbie Simpson were running it. Place to get, good smash burger and maybe some other kind of food. They want something that is sort of at a price point that's accessible for members of the public across income levels. And so we put out an RFP requesting proposals. I was contacted recently by Mr. Durkee. They have multiple locations across the upstate, and they had been to Lawrence several years ago, and were concerned about where things were then. This is 5+ years ago. He has come back recently, and honestly, I got to give credit to Sarah Beth, who owns a store on the square, and she was sort of talking up our town, and so he put out feelers about Lawrence and reached out to me, and we had a chance to go by there. He liked the space. The facility is not perfect, but the ability, it doesn't have a drive-through and things like that, but the ability to have the interplay between the city maintaining its use of the theater space and being able to have programming there and having a place to get a bite to eat in front, those two things work well together. So he liked the atmosphere of the town, he liked the building itself. So he also has a number of other restaurants in addition to Arnold's. But just based upon the feedback that we've gotten from the community, we felt like Arnold's sort of seemed like the best fit for that particular space. I think from the city standpoint, there's a benefit to us because we will have a source of income to the city to support programming in the theater space. And there's a benefit to the entire community because you will have a source of vibrancy through that theater space and restaurant space that will drive other patrons to other events at other restaurants and shops. So it's sort of a win-win. There's also benefit in the fact that this is not a national chain, but there is some economy of labor that can happen where you have some of the administrative functions shared among multiple different restaurants. So they're established. Seem to one of the things we've talked about is he wants it to be a very family-friendly kind of atmosphere. He wants to help support the community through donating proceeds from time to time. So seems to be a good community partner. That was a long answer to a short question, but I wanted to give you the information I had. Is there any further discussion? If not, if I hear no further discussion, we have a motion and a second for approval of the ordinance on first reading. I will call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, no.
Nay.
And the measure is approved by a vote of 3-1. That brings us to the end of tonight's agenda. we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Without objection, we are adjourned.